Our podcast name is Bozo, based in our condo. Get ready, cause our show is starting really pronto. Talking tons about stuff we all like. Give us a listen, let me tell ya, we don't bite. We know your mind will be jumping super high as you hear us making light of our lives. Time spots, frequencies, and energies. Time spots, frequencies, and energies. Get us thinking about space, poo-poo, and pee-pee. Come on, come on. 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 Look at the sky and listen.
Whee! Welcome back. We're on season 2, episode 10 of Podcast Bozo. Fun fact, it took 5 storks to deliver Paul Bunyan when he was born. That's a real fact.
True story.
I'm your host, JJ. I'm here with Sean, a certified beer server, and Eli, our resident artist. Today, we'll be talking about the truth and the weight of the truth. It's our season finale, so we're going to get deep here. By the way, we do have activities off the sound waves. You can find us using @PodcastBozo on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I want to emphasize, it's @PodcastBozo. If you've listened to other episodes, we've actually since changed the @, so it's @PodcastBozo. It's simpler to remember now. Not to mention, you can observe our beautiful faces on YouTube now. Look at Sean, look at Eli, look at me.
Let me spell that out for you guys. That's @BOZO Bozo. Or no, rewind. That's @podcast PodcastBozo. Podcast Bozo. Give us a follow. Hit that button that you want to hit.
It called?
It's called follow. It's called give us a follow. Give us a 5-star review. Go on Apple Podcasts. That's Podcast Bozo. PodcastBozo. We love you. We love the support. And let's just keep doing this thing, you know?
And a new thing that we've been doing that's turned out to be, in the early stages, successful for what we expected is we have a donation button on our site, which is podcastbozo.com. So take that spelling that you just heard very clearly put out by our croaky frog, Sean, and put that in with the .com at the end, and you'll see a button pretty much at the top under our beautiful banner. You'll see a donate button. Smash it, mash it, go into the donation station, and you can elect to put in how much ever you want. There's defaults of 5, 10, 15. It's really fun to click those buttons and just enter your card number. The best part about it is that you can put in a little message. You could tell us to either write you a ghost story, or you can ask us a question, and we'll try to answer that the best as we can. And we have some examples of that because we had some donations today or this week, and we'd like to shout those people out later. And that's how we're doing our shout outs now. And lastly, you can contact us on social media or our site at podcastbozo.com. It has a comment section on it, and you can chime in on our conversation. Tell us how you feel about things we've said, where you weigh in on these things. We have this going on with some of our loyal listeners already. And you could even possibly tell us where you could see this podcast going, some suggestions, cons, pros, beeps and bops, and just help us get oiled up and slicked up like lubed up dudes.
Send us a DM. We want to know what you're thinking. If you have any thoughts of topics that we could discuss or something that you find interesting, you know, through scrolling through the interwebs that you think would be a great fit for this podcast, let us know. We would love to look into it. We would love to research it. We love the engagement. We love when you guys reach out to us. So please.
Yeah, that's
give
why
us your thoughts.
That's why we do it. I like engaging with you guys. We like engaging with you guys. So engage. Prepare to engage. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of I know. So Eli and I, the Podcast Bozo, I guess in general, had a big day today. We had our first guest appearance on another podcast, and it was a former guest of ours who runs his own indie podcasts, and I consider him a friend at this point. And his name's Casey Ryan, not Ryan Casey, to be confused. His name's Casey
Ryan.
And he has
He's got 2 first names.
Yeah.
We love him.
And he's a real nice guy, and he let us come on his podcast. We told him that we don't know why he'd want that much dead air on his primetime podcast, but
let's give the podcast a shout out. What's the name of his podcast?
Cutting Room Floor. For a second, I blanked.
Cutting Room Floor.
I was like,
Go
Cheek, don't
listen.
put me on the spot like that, but it's Cutting Room Floor. It's Cutting Room Floor. Go listen to that. He does a lot of just free goodwill for people trying to start their things up. And he what he likes about people is when they have good intentions and they're good people. And so he brought us on and was happy with us. And I think he doesn't do it for any money. He just does it because he likes him, and he has a pretty big following. And I think he does a lot of good for the art community, and he's obviously a pop culture fanatic, so that's pretty cool of him to perpetuate that cycle and promote those indie podcasts. And then on top of that, we watched the Bills game today.
Dun, dun, dun.
Let's have a moment of silence and just a smooth slurp into the microphone for the
cheers to this fine whiskey that we're sipping on.
This fine whiskey, which
could be yours.
I bet we could say this was partially sponsored by Awesome B, even though we haven't taken that money out. It's theoretically I mean, EU bought it, but it's sponsored by Awesome B in theory, because he's our boy. He's our boy. And here's a little slurp for the Bills and for our boys.
I want to say something to all those Bills fans out there who might be feeling like I'm feeling. This game, it was a tough one. It was a tough loss. It was heartbreaking. We played great in the first half. They dropped off in the second half, but we need to be optimistic looking forward here. All right. When Josh Allen needed to make a big play, when Stephon Diggs needed to make a big catch, they made that happen.
Mm-hmm.
They made that happen. You know, our defense didn't hold up, but I think that there are a lot of positive outlooks that you can make from this game. We've got bye week coming up. We're going to get healthy, and we're going to come back even more ferocious than we've been in the past 2 weeks. So I love Bills Mafia. I love you, Josh Allen, still. You're #my quarterback. You know, let's keep it going. Let's keep it rolling. Bills Mafia. We're going to make something happen. That's all I've got to say. And I will not stop wearing this sweatshirt.
Not for any reason.
Even if I poop in it.
That reminds me, Eli sent us the picture of Brody right before he pooped on our couch.
Dude. Whoa, we don't need to publicize that. We do not need to publicize that.
Now you're making a big thing. Now people want to look into it.
Everyone poops a couch once in a while.
Don't deny it.
But all right, so we were talking before all that nonsense about Awesome B being a good fan, donating, and I think we want to talk a little bit more about that because Awesome B did donate a generous amount. And we really want to thank him. Shout out. And Awesome B had a question for us associated with that donation. Kisses for Awesome B. And the question was,
what's one life-altering thing that everyone should experience?
Who wants to go first with that one?
It's deep.
Like,
Cheek, you had something first. I feel like you had a quick
Yeah,
response.
I mean, I'll take it off. One of the things that really helped shape the person I am and experiences that I've had and gave me a lot of great memories growing up was sailing. And I know that that's not something that's necessarily too accessible to everybody, but if you ever have the opportunity, it is something that's near and dear to my heart. And for me, being out on the open water and powering your vehicle through the wind and being able to control your own destiny out there on the water is actually an incredible feeling. I mean, I know JJ grew up sailing a few times, so maybe he can speak to it as far as his experience.
I got to advance, Cheek.
But he's an advanced sailor for everybody out there. It's really it's a special feeling. It's a really special feeling to be able to harness, nature, harness the gifts that nature bestows upon us, and to be able to create work and create motion and to experience that. It's pure, it's clean, it's beautiful, and it's so much fun. So that's one of the things that has helped shape me and shape my life. And I think that if any of the listeners out there who haven't sailed ever have the opportunity to do it, hop on a boat, even if you're some tourist thing, whatever, like just hop on the boat. It's so much fun. It's beautiful out there. I love sailing.
In an effort to make those feelings more accessible to just about everyone, even the landlocked people, how do you, I know you boiled down some of the things that made you feel at home in that craft, but like what specifically, is there anything tangible that could be commuted to something else like team sports or a travel sport or something like that you can say was also a main contributor that you could maybe extract from something else?
I think one of the big things for me, I grew up in this culture of this community that sailed. We were a part of a sailing community, and I went every day to the club and we taught kids and we sailed ourselves. So I think number one, being a part of a community that makes you feel so special about something is the number one thing. So regardless if it's sailing, but engulfing yourself in a community that makes you feel part of something and something that's useful, teaching a skill to people, that's really big. But the other thing too is just, the clean feel, free, like the clean feeling, the freeing feeling of being out on the water. I think you can maybe achieve that a bunch of different ways. I think skiing provides a very similar experience for certain people. Those are the feelings that really drive home to me, that I think are whatever you can do to help you achieve this free, clean feeling, I think is what I'm trying to address here.
I'd almost say that like camping could almost embody that a little bit.
Yeah.
That openness.
You can get there too.
Getting a lot of these aren't really like, even camping is not that achievable to have like a tent, but summer camping, like deep summer camping where you don't need that much and you could just sleep open air. That open air, being out in the wilderness by yourself, depending on yourself, a little bit of your survival abilities. Those are kind of, and I get, it's hard because you get that rush from the speed of sailing the same way, like you said, you do skiing. And that controlling that speed with a sail or in skis with your turns is such a cool feeling. I don't know. I know there's other things out there that you can find that from, and I don't know, adventures out there. We want
adventures out there.
Yeah.
Why wait?
I
feel like that's a tagline for some company, but
adventures out there. Why wait? Listen to Podcast Bozo.
Yeah.
We'll adventure for you.
Just imagine Cheek just ripping his shirt off. E.
My take. One life-altering experience I think everyone should have the pleasure of experiencing is cutting your arm open, slapping cheese on the window. That's not actually it. But that was really sick when I did that.
Yeah, I can't quite hear you. Can you get a little closer to the mic? I'm sorry.
Slapping your cheese.
Maybe I need to turn you up a little bit, E.
Cutting your arm open, slapping cheese through a window. On the real, though, I think a real life-altering experience everyone should have is cracking up with a stranger. Because I think that learning that you can connect with anyone, no matter your differences, is an important lesson, in that no matter, like, we have more in common than we do in difference, and that we should focus on the connections we have rather than what separates us. And on top of that, I also think that traveling outside of the country is very important, because you can see that you've been living in a culture that's very separate from the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. In America, we all have a shared perspective of what life is, and we have like hardworking values and things like that. But if you go to another country, you'll find that people live completely fine with other values and goals. And sometimes you can be like, oh, wow, I like this a lot more than what I'm used to. Like this is the way things should be. I agree with this more, and it's eye-opening. Just connecting with other people and open your bubble to diversity.
Laughing with a stranger, that's a beautiful way to sum that up. And I think that embodies all the things you just said too, is like understanding that other people's lives are different and they survive as well. And those values that you get from going to another country. I mean, I always hear that some of the big things you should do in your life is work in a service industry and travel the world is another one. Just if you can, it's well worth it because people do get along in very different ways than you, and it's important to see that that's a way to be. I think people get stuck in that New York City state of mind where it's like my way is the way, fast track, boom, bang, bang.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Give me that pizza and a bagel, and then
hey, I'm walking here.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's important too. E. I like that one. I like that one a lot too.
Yeah, that was beautiful. E. Thank you.
Yeah.
How about you, Jay?
I feel like mine, kind of serendipity wise, kind of ties in with both of yours. Mine is I think every single person should be able to take a road trip with their best boyo.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I'm not, that sounds joking, but oh my gosh, I love road trips more than anything in my life.
The freedom.
Whether you're driving 6 hours, 14 hours, 27 hours straight from Orlando to Denver, I think that there's something about, first of all, the open road and just the being out there by yourself driving in this like on these huge stretches of roads where you don't see anyone else. That kind of almost embodies that like adventure aspect of what you're saying, Cheek, that camping, open air, just rushing with the windows down kind of feeling. And then the other side of things, you get to experience the other parts of your country that are different. And E and I have done a couple of road trips down to Northern California where it's like, Northern California.
I was like, what?
Northern Texas, where it's these just like rusty, small little towns. And you realize that life is so different there. People's worlds revolve around completely different things. Even just 8 hours away, or I don't know how far away that was, 10 hours away, their values are completely changed. And you can see that change time and time again every hour you spend on the road. And also letting your mind get bored in a road trip, get not bored, but like letting your mind settle to a point where you're forced to be creative and think about things that you don't normally do in your daily routine. That's kind of something the road trip makes you do too. And I think I think a lot of thought processes on the road trip mentality of just kind of like finding the gold in these open fields of what could maybe seem as repetitiveness, but unless you look deeper.
That was poetry.
Ruminate on that, boys. Those are 3 good ones. Austin B, I hope you're happy.
I love what you said there about creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that something that I personally struggled with, before quarantine, before we did this podcast, is I didn't think of myself as an inherently creative person at all. But working with you guys and developing this podcast has certainly opened up, a world that I didn't know existed or didn't know that I would be able to access.
Mm-hmm.
And for those people out there who don't think they're creative people, creativity isn't one branch of, isn't one branch. It's not drawing. It's not painting. It's not ceramics. There are so many other things that can be established as creative. And I think that JJ's right on hitting the nail with the hammer there. Be creative. Like when you're on a road trip, you got to be fucking creative in figuring out how you're going to entertain yourself. But more than that, in life, I think it's healthy and it's smart to learn to be creative with what skill set you have and with what you enjoy.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't think I had anything before this podcast that was maybe deemed creative, but doing this with you guys has certainly shown me other ideas and other possibilities. So to all those people out there, get creative.
Well, there's nothing about creative that's acquired. I think creativity could be easily exchanged with perspective. I think the things that people associate with creativity, like art and things like that, are more learned tools to display your creativity. You might argue with me in this, and feel free, but I think a lot of people put creativity up as a barrier and say I'm not creative because I'm in engineering or something like that. And it's not a true barrier because, I mean, like we talked about with Stu Jeffries, like creativity is something that everyone should practice regardless of what it is, because it's just pushing yourself and learning how to portray your perspective. Because like, Cheek, there are things that you say that I would never have been able to bring up from inside of me because I'm not you, you know? And to me, that's creativity because it's like you have this perspective that I don't come from. So you're bringing, you express yourself in a different way than me. Same way with Eli. And people always say some people are more creative than others. And I think some people just allow that creativity to nurture. And one last thing is an update on that book that I was talking about that I was going to read a couple episodes ago. I ended up reading like 50 pages of it. And so one of the best metaphors I heard from it, it's about like writing one song. And it's basically like proving to yourself that you can be creative. And all you have to do is like, not worry about the goal of it. You're not trying. If you say, I'm going to write a number one song, you're ruining that process. But if you say you're going to put up a huge barrier for yourself. But if you say, I want to write a song, you don't have to do anything. You write 2 rhymes, you write whatever a song means to you. You've been writing a song. And once you finish it, you're basically taking a picture because a lot of people think that art is never done developing. So like you're taking a picture once you're done finishing that song and you've written that song and you keep doing that and you don't build this barrier of like, I want to write an album. I want to write a number one song. You don't build those barriers. You say, I want to write a song. That's all. There's no qualifiers. There's nothing like that. And something that he makes a metaphor for in that is that like a lot of people think that like, at one time, he thought that building a wood table would be creativity. You know, like you do it enough times and you finally like figure out the form and you're able to do it again and recreate it over and over again. And that seems like an art in itself. But what creativity really is planting a seed and growing a tree. Because if you really want to foster creativity, you're fostering this thing. Every time you're going to get a tree, you know, you're going to plant the seed, you're going to get the tree. But every tree is going to be a little different. The branch is going to grow differently. The leaves are going to be elsewhere. So like if you're building a table, you're worried about that end goal, and it's going to be more manufactured. It's going to be less creative. If you're worried about growing a tree, there's no end goal. It's all about the process. And I think that's what people should learn about creativity is that you should be willing to foster. Yeah, be willing to foster that creativity rather than be creative, because I think that's an unachievable goal.
Well said. Well, very well said, Jay. I love that.
You summed that up nicely. That should be a topic in itself for the next season.
Yeah.
So we could go into that.
Yeah, we could really get into that.
But I agree. I think it's just managing your expectations. And I think a lot of people don't want to be creative because they can't meet their expectations. Like they have this vision of like what a really good painting is in their head. But when they go for it, it looks sloppy. And then they're like, well, that's not what I envisioned. So it's not like true to myself. And they don't want people seeing that and being like, oh, that's all he made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not worth worrying about that thing.
Yeah. You got to understand that there's like an awkward phase of you trying and it not looking the way you wanting to until you finally master all the techniques. And then you can like get to that point where you properly express what you actually are feeling inside.
Yeah. It takes a while to create that vision in your head. And then once you have that vision in your head of whatever it is, it's a lifetime's worth of work to apply it to
I don't
something.
even think it takes a while to have that vision in your head. I think everyone gets visions constantly, but they just don't know how to share them with other people outside, extrapolate it from their heads. Like Cheek was saying, even just podcasting is showing him that he's got this creative side. Like it doesn't have to be art. It can be podcasting, just talking about things to realize that you have all these ideas in your head, but you have to share them somehow. Like, how do you make it legible for other people to understand you?
Well, you've expressed to me before, like the process of looking at someone else's finished work after a career long of development, you know, and being like, how did they do that? And you get discouraged about seeing that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And you say like, oh, it kind of puts yourself down to look at that finished work and be like, oh man, like how am I ever going to achieve something like that? How these techniques that he used are ridiculous. But it's not fair because that's someone else's mind. The things that made him make each one of those individual decisions are something that he decided at every step of the way. He was like, I want this. He decided the final vision. He figured out a way, a scaffolding to build himself there. And you can't do that. You can't build yourself to someone else's final idea. You have to build yourself to your own final idea. And someday you'll build yourself to that final idea. And that person you were oogling at will look back at your work and be like, how did he get there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there's just no one else has that.
Wango.
Yeah. Bingo, bango.
Cheek, you want to take an early break? You can say it out loud. I can't read that because my eyesight's bad.
I gotta take a little TT break if you guys don't mind.
No,
Yeah.
let's do it.
We can do that. We got into deep conversation real fast there.
I love that. I think that was a great introduction, and I can't wait to see where this episode goes.
All right. Early pee-pee break, folks. Don't worry about it. We got small bladders. Don't make fun of us. We'll be back.
We'll be back.
All right. We'll flush. Cheek might miss.
Zero.
Alrighty then. We had some potential technical difficulties, but I don't think we did actually. And it turns out we did have technical difficulties in our bladders as well. So we needed to take a little pee-pee, leak out the mainframe, hack the hibiscus, and we're back at it.
Croissant.
And croissant. From Bois de la Joie de la Flume. So basically,
Oui.
Austin, I hope we answered your question to the best of our ability. And if you have any more questions, I know you'll message us. I love hearing your chimes and your dimes. E has something prepared because we got another donation for our loyal listener Andrew D. He sent us in two, and one of them is a monthly subscription. So thank you to Andrew D as well. He didn't have a message, and I have been informed that he would really like us to write him a ghost story. So this is really a good flex of our donation system right here. The multifacetedness of it. We get on one arm, we have we'll answer your question. On the other arm, we'll have the wallop them and give them a ghost story, which gets us hard and gets us going. So
JJ,
yeah.
Before that, do you think you could do me a quick favor?
Mm-hmm.
Could you call the vet?
Why is that?
Because these pythons are sick. Sorry. All right. Sorry.
All right.
Wookie call. All right. Well, what we got here is a Willy Wonka's Shop of Horrors for Andrew D. Get ready. Strap in.
We haven't heard this one yet. Cheek and I have not heard this one yet.
And here we go. In the city of cities, this little house was bursting to the brim. Inside this house, a bed full of toes, wiggle, wiggle. Head to foot, all the old people slept head to foot. A poof from the chimney, and out came the soot. The week's mail fell at the boy's foot. Our star of the show bent down to pick it up. First thing he saw was his name on the ticket. Twinkle, twinkle, it was a golden ticket. Andrew D., your time has come. Run to my shop, you oughta hop. Come on over, lick my lollipop. You're the only one I want, a little boy I wish to flaunt. So come on down and try my sweets, they're guaranteed to lift those cheeks. Worried, young Andrew was. He was the luckiest boy in the city of cities. Envy of the rest, but he could not suppress the worry in his head. For there was one thing about this boy, little Andrew D. He did not like sweets, not a one indeed. Pressured by his family of curling bedroom toes, the old people and all their missed goals, they told him he better take advantage of this shot, for it might be the only drop in their little family pot. Guilted by all the old people, next thing he knew, Andrew D. stood on the chocolate steeple. Agreed to the Aztec gold ticket, he sold his soul to the Lord of Sugar. Out came Andy, the king of sweets, the Lord of Sugar. He did his dance, what a jig. This Andy was a myth to the city of cities. They'd seen his face but a handful of times. Each one next, stranger than the last. Quick and fast, he pulled out a crown. Dawned upon young D's head, Andy placed the crown. Toodles, said Sir Poodles as he walked back with the boy. Inside the chamber of sweets left the two peeps. On the elevator down, Andrew gave a frown. He couldn't hold it anymore. Sir, I don't deserve this crown. Nonsense, young child, you've earned your swill. Cheer up, young child, I'll give you your fill. Young D, quiet with doubt, he wouldn't give a pout. Shut his mouth, he let the old man flout. The elevator stopped with a soft drop. Opened the doors, there was bent an Oompa Loompa, quite sparkly with a belt. Floated an aroma, a curious scent. Oof, ah, a painful scent. Sweet, sweet, a chocolatey scent. I can't no more, it hurts the nose. Cheer up, young lad. Snip, snap, there goes your nose. My nose, my sniffing schnauzer. You cut me, there goes my nose. I cannot smell, never again. The blood, the pain, oh no, oh no. Fear not, child, we'll fix it all. Come on down, we'll change that frown. Dumb from shock, he looked at his Crocs. Down with the floor, the elevator sunk. So he just cut off Andrew D's nose, and he's also wearing Crocs. Deeper and deeper, the scent got sweeter, but poor little Andrew knew the difference no neither. Suddenly, a burn and singe. Ouch! Go my eyes, it stings. Something not bitter, it stings like apple fritter. Your eyes are right, said odd Andy. Andrew D, you mustn't cheat. We can't let you see our beautiful secret. Where's my spoon, my chocolate sherbet spoon? Scoop, scoop, plop, plop. No more burn, now you heal. Andrew D, how do you feel? My God, my eyes, you scoop my eyes out like canned beans. But no sting and no see, my secret fritter recipe. With the floor pooling of, he just scooped his eyes out.
Yeah.
With the floor pooling of blood, the elevator dropped to the final floor. I'm done, no more, screamed little D. But the final test awaits you, D. You should feel blessed to witness my test, my prized experiment that none have seen. I've taken your eyes, I've taken your nose, yet I've left alone that sensitive mouth. Andrew D, do you take me for a fool? I picked you for your sense, so sensitive of sweets. Now follow me, for your fate depends on it. My greatest project yet stands before you. Something so sugary the world never tasted. My most damning invention yet. I hope you like it. Sick your buds on this little bite. Please, sir, I wish to go home. Finish this sweet, and then we'll know. Approaching the final, he felt a machine, a soda machine of which he felt. A cup his hand, the poor boy clenched. A spritz, he gave the cup. Held his lips, the poor boy trembled, wanting to go home. The only thought resembled a sip. He gave the poor lad's last. Too sweet, too sweet. His lips puckered up more and more till they sucked in his mouth. They puckered and pulled till a little mouth shrunk, sucked and sucked till he slurped himself up. If I could a wee bit water, his last words echoed through his state of horror. Up walked Andy, proudful and boastful, and to the last bit of little D he said, you will wander my factory, deaf, dumb, and blind, and all the Oompa Loompas will know. Here lies Andrew D, the fool who could taste no sweets. And that story is about Andrew D, our friend who is very sensitive to sweet things.
Brava. Brava. Bravo.
Bravissimo.
It's no wonder that took you hours. That was a masterpiece. Oh my gosh. Oh, I hope you're glad you donated.
Shouts out to you, Goof.
That was incredible.
Let that lesson be learned. If you donate, we'll scoop your eyes out and make you too sensitive to sweets. Oh my gosh, Andrew, let us know what you thought about that. Thanks for donating. Thanks, Austin B, for donating. E, I want you to know that E spent hours on that, and it was well worth the time.
My mind is totally in the state of rhymes right now.
Yeah.
So anytime you guys say something, my mind just starts triggering rhymes and rhymes. What rhymes with that word?
E's gonna be twitching with rhymes on the side. Be like, Cheek, how's your day? Way, okay, Shay. Wow, what a start! I feel like we came out like cannon fodder right
Guns
there.
blazing.
Do you want?
Hey, cheers to E. Cheers to Austin D. I think I might need a cup of tea. My voice is pitty.
Thank you, boys, for donating. Can't wait to hear what you think. Thanks for that, E.
Now let's
Cheek,
have a drink.
thanks for being here. Thanks for that rhyme at the end. It's season 10, boys. Or episode 10.
That's
season 2.
Season 10, episode 2. Let's go, boys.
We should just fast forward next season.
Whoa.
Season 10, episode 1. Can you believe it? You guys have favorite moments from this season yet?
Gotta think on that one.
Favorite moments.
Cheek Sewers was great.
I loved Stu Jeffries. He was a boyo.
Yeah.
My mind always jumps to that Greek painting that we saw of that not intimidating at all dog with woman's titties and claws and wings.
The Sphinx.
The Sphinx, dude. That was like the most absurd painting I've seen in my life. I love that.
Dude, that was a blast discussing Greek and Roman mythology.
Yeah. I think Robin was my favorite, but I think my favorite specific moment was from last episode. We published a clip on social media, but it was just when we all broke into the motorboat noises. And then we stopped, and then within like, and then within like half a second, Ian just goes, "Yeah, but I think power corrupts, like," and he just switched it right back
straight to some deep philosophical
conversation. Austin B retweeted it and was like, "This is the quintessence of this podcast and why everyone should listen to it." And I was like, I had sent that like literally an hour before to Eli, being like, "This is one of my favorite clips ever," and he caught on right away and sent that. But yeah, I thought, I don't know, we've had nothing but great guests and good luck and
we
good
want
times.
A bad one at this point.
Yeah, we're still asking. That's another promotion we put at the front. If you want to argue with us,
we're batting 1,000, and if you don't think we are, go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
or message us and tell us why not.
Yeah, rate us 1 star. Let us know. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was good to do a little recap there. But you guys want to get into the truth?
I think it's time.
The truth? You can't handle the truth.
I kind of had a feeling before the episode, if I just said the truth, that Cheek would come out with some kind of thing for it.
I wish you had asked me to prepare that Jack Nicholson monologue. Actually, that's incredible. You sit over there in your white skivvies, all something.
Wow.
You don't know what it is to defend your country or be a man.
I really can't wait till this is my full-time job to edit these, and I can just start adding in like fun little like emotional soundtracks for when you do like monologues and things like that.
Little ambient music.
Yeah.
If you want, I'll look up that monologue right now and try and read it live.
No, it's okay.
No, I quite wish you'd rather not.
Are you sure? I'm pulling it up right now.
Look it up if we have a break, Cheek. We'll have another break sometime in this, and then we could do it. But I want to talk about the truth, and I don't know if Cheek, you looked into the truth at all, or if E, I know you looked into a little bit of the truth, but in some regards, but I've always found it fascinating how the way I got this topic was, I've always thought it was fascinating when you watch these like seasoned criminals doing premeditated crimes. They thought about it. They planned it out. They commit it. They commit 8 of them, 10 of them. And all of a sudden, 2 years later, they come in with a confession and they're crying and they feel guilty. And not everyone falls under this roof. There are sociopaths and things like that don't fall under it. But there's a lot of times that you see these people who have thought about these murders and these crimes that they're committing, and specifically murders, and even cheaters and premeditated cheaters and things like that. And then eventually the truth comes out, and they feel this weight that makes them, call it guilt, call it just like momentum. I don't know, but it's something that makes them confess. And then another thing I'll talk about eventually is things like self-implementing discipline, where you're like, oh, I shouldn't have cheated like that. Now I can't drink smoothies for 5 days, or I can't have sugar for 5 days. These are all kinds of things that like I think lead to the idea that truth in a general sense has this path, and we're kind of on this amplitude that kind of rises above and below the path, but we always meet with the truth, we always have that intersection. And I kind of want to talk about that. Before I get into it, I want to know if you guys have any perspective on the matter.
Let me share the bit I looked at.
Not quite yet, E. I think I have a gist, and I want that to come in at a certain time. But Cheek, do you have any perspective on truth? Do you find yourself as being guilty? Do you feel guilt?
Do you feel sinful, Cheek?
Do you feel remorse for your actions? Apologize to us.
Forgive me, Lord, for I have sinned.
Well, religion does play into it in some parts, but I want to know what do you think truth is, Cheek? What is a truth?
Truth is a clear conscience. I think that truth is a matter of perspective and is not always factual. And I think that one's truth is very much determined by their perspective of a certain situation. It's interesting because we talk about the truth from a view of, I think a lot of people think about a jury of your peers are the ones who will objectively observe opinions or statements, in the setting of a court to determine the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't always necessarily the truth of the parties at B. And I think that truth is a matter of perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, perspective is a big note I have on that. And there's a lot of angles to this. It's once again a philosophical question, and as philosophy goes, people have been arguing this for thousands of years, starting back in deep thinkers in Greece and probably beyond that. But a lot of people claim that truth is purely perspective, and it's all about what is your truth and what is your reality. Some people claim that multiple people have to observe this truth for it to be true. Some people claim that there is no nihilists say that there are no truths. There's no such thing as a truth, because truth is just this construction. And honestly, I don't believe in that one the most, but that one's the most interesting because you can really break someone's reality by saying there's no truth. Go ahead, Cheek.
I am unfamiliar with the definition of a nihilist. If you would love to update me on that.
Well, I don't know the full definition of nihilist, but I know a nihilist believes that nothing is true, and I don't want to say that's the foundation of what makes a nihilist, but I know that is an asset of a nihilist. But
it's a bleak lookout on the existence of life.
Yeah, that's how I always put it. It's almost like goth in a way, like
a pessimist that doesn't believe in anything almost.
Yeah, but it's almost not pessimism because there's no morbid view of it.
Here's what it is. Okay. Nihilism is the rejection of all religious and moral principles and the belief that life is meaningless.
Okay.
There you go. So nihilists believe there are no truths. And in saying that, they're saying reality is so much so false and all concocted that there just isn't anything truth. And if you really dial into that one, you can go a lot of ways. So like one asset of that is saying that like truth, what is truth? I look at this glass, I say glass. You know what? Someone who speaks another language says this is something else. And yeah, we're talking about the same thing, but the truth, their truth.
That's melted sand, JJ. I don't know what you're talking about.
There you go. Now you're talking. But yeah, it's melted sand. What? I just watched a rom-com that is all about that. Sweet Home Alabama. That's what it was. Sweet Home Alabama.
That was just on TV a couple days ago.
Really?
Reese Witherspoon and Patrick Dempsey, I think.
Yep.
And who's
the main sexy boy?
The pretty boy hillbilly. I forget his name.
Yeah, he's not that famous. But he's like a rom-com guy. He's Mr. Rom-com.
Yeah. You recognize him.
But that's where this comes up because his like whole thing is like melting sand and getting glass, like diamond of the rough kind of philosophy.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I find the truth interesting because I think to start kind of my ladder as I form my topics is you start at knowledge and what is to know something. And a good example of a paradox of knowing is when you have a magician with an assistant on either side, and the assistant and he does the disappearing ball trick. So he has the ball in this hand, he tosses it up, closes both his fists, and he asks the person on the right and the person on the left to guess which one it is. They each say a different fist. They both know it's there. Or let's change this a little bit. It's the cup one, where they're rotating the cup around, puts it under cup, you spin it around.
A ball in one of the 3 cups.
Under the 3 cups, yeah. And then there's 2 people there. They both guess. They both know it's there because they watched it happen. The magician is the only one that knows where it is. But to the other 2 people, they also know. They have the knowledge of where it is because they watched where it went. The point of the trick is to deceive, so they obviously don't actually know where it went. But they're both confident in their own way. Either one or both of their knowledges will be upended when that cup is flipped up that they guessed. And so that's like a fundamental of the question of what is knowledge. And in that case, knowledge is perspective, because if I'm looking at we just watched the Raccoon Whisperer on YouTube, and this guy he goes out and he feeds 16 pounds of hot dogs to something between 20 and 35 raccoons. I'm not going to count all those raccoons, but if I look out on it and I recount that watching to you, Cheek, and I say this video had 27 raccoons in it, this guy was feeding, that knowing, that fact to you, that truth to you would now be there were 27 raccoons in that video. I could be wrong. I could just be estimating, but your truth is based on my estimation.
That's my truth.
Yeah. Speak your truth. Right. And so that's kind of like a fundamental of knowing is very perspective. And some people would argue that there are things that are known and that are truths that are universal, like scientific facts, things that are observable by everyone in a unique way. And
yeah, the earth is flat. Like, we all know that.
Yeah, exactly. We can all see that. Just look out across your balcony.
There's no curves there.
Yeah, there's nothing. We all know the NASA landings were faked. We know that birds aren't real. We know that life is a simulation. These are all known facts that everyone can share because we all believe in them.
A common truth.
Yeah, common truths. But that's just one perspective of truth, is that common beliefs are true. Because what if one person varies from that common belief? Their truth is different. There are people who suffer from severe paranoia whose realities are so different than ours. Like the lady across the street who's screaming, "Fuck you" at nothing. That lady's truth is very different than yours. That lady's experiencing something else. Whatever she's experiencing is very real because she's emotionally affected by it, and you have to respect that. But at the same time, it's not what you're seeing. It's not the same thing that you're seeing. So in that regard, what is a truth? And so this gets into another topic. And I didn't realize this until I started talking today, but this can kind of be a little political. And not that we're afraid to get political here on this podcast, but there's a concept of cognitive ease that plays into knowledge and truth. And cognitive ease basically explains that it basically says that people tend to settle into this thought process, whether it's what they've been told 1,000 times, whether it's the easiest thing to believe, whether it's the thing that causes them least harm. Those are the facts that people, that the things that confirm their bias. Those are the facts that people tend to believe most frequently on a higher statistical basis. And cognitive ease is one of the biggest inhibitors to the truth out there. That's enemy number one of the truth.
Will you repeat that?
Cognitive ease.
Well, like what cognitive ease means, what people's biases are.
Cognitive ease is a tendency for the brain, the uncurious brain, to settle in to comfortable truths. And comfortable truths aren't necessarily true from my perspective. It's a conversation topic, obviously, but cognitive ease says
stop the count. Stop the count. Those votes are illegal. Stop the damn count.
Exactly. And that is a truth.
Would that be an example? That's an example of a cognitive truth that would, a lot of people have.
That would be an example for cognitive ease in someone who can't deal with their Messiah being wrong. You know, these people that Donald Trump is their Messiah, and they can't deal with the fact that he might have been wrong. He might not be the popular thing. Their beliefs, these radical beliefs they've been indulging in aren't truth. And they
that's like getting into cult stuff of like when they plan mass suicides or something, like thinking that the world is going to end, but it doesn't. And then they're like, oh, I guess there's some reason for it. And they keep believing in that cult leader. Exactly.
It's that repetitive. If you're told something, even if it's false, if you're told enough times, you begin to believe it. If you see two options, one's really complex to understand, one's really easy to understand, we have a tendency to say the easier one to understand is true.
So it works into like miracles too. If someone survives a freak accident that should have killed the person, like 99.99% chance they should have died, but they survived, they'll be like, oh, it was a miracle. Something intervened, as opposed to, well, actually, this, and this happened.
Right. One person might cite statistics, and this is the statistical likelihood of you dying during that, and 1 in a million will survive, and you might be that 1 in a million. Someone else might say is a miracle. They might be saying the same thing. They're describing the same thing, that's for sure, but in different ways, and their truths are different in that respect. And it's all, in that case, it's about
cognitive ease.
Yeah, in some ways, yeah, cognitive ease. In that case, it's confirmation bias because you want to believe that there's something out there, and confirmation bias plays into cognitive ease. That's one facet of it. That's one of the definition. One thing that is an identification of cognitive ease. And I've seen a lot of articles that say cognitive ease is very dangerous because it's basically people who have fallen into their comfortable way of thinking. They don't challenge their beliefs. They don't listen to the other side. They're locked into their routines, the easy way of thinking. And it's dangerous because they're not seeking the truth. They might hit it. It's like a blind squirrel situation. Sometimes the truth is easy. You will hit that truth once in a while, and sometimes you're avoiding the truth because it's harder to confront.
What's that phrase? It's similar to vicious cycle, but it's like where everyone's affirming each other's beliefs.
It's a silo. Well, there's confirmation bias is that. But there's also what is it? A silo, like an idea silo, and I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but it's this thing.
It's all where we all agree with each other, and we're just perpetuating our own beliefs.
Echo chamber,
churning in.
Echo chamber. Yeah. Confirmation bias, echo chamber. These are all the same things. Search engines. We talked about this in the social dilemma episode, where echo chambers are or search engines are almost the definition of confirmation bias because you search. It's all about how you phrase it. If you search what you want to know. Yeah. If you search how many ballots were faked, you're going to get results for how many ballots are faked. If you search
why is Josh Allen the best quarterback in the NFL, you're going to get confirmation as to why Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL.
Perfect example. You'll get people who are making cases. They're spinning those stories for that. It's all about people with agendas, and you're listening to that. And that becomes your truth because you're willing to believe it. You're willing to believe it because you want to believe it, and it's easier. And and that interferes. That's a big interference with the truth, in my opinion, because it's not facing the actual truth. And I think truth, for me, I don't know, based on what we've talked about so far, I'd like to hear your opinion, but for me, truth has a utilitarian aspect where it's based on what most people think is good, knowledgeable, true, necessary, that kind of thing, what people acknowledge as true as well. And what and then on top of that, what's statistically, mathematically, scientifically there in front of us and proven. There's arguments against that. I mean, plenty of people think that the reality we see is very unique to our own experiences, but
that's trippy thinking about.
I want to do. We haven't done a determinism episode, have we? Like making our own choices yet?
I don't know what that is.
That is a trippy one. That's one of those ones that I've been holding off on because that falls into quantum entanglement that I've been telling you about before.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like everything's happening at once. So do we really have determination over ourselves, or are we just one version of everything happening at once? That's one I would really like to get into. Maybe we'll open the next season.
Yeah,
with
we
that
might
one.
have to start off season 3 with that one. I'm getting excited just thinking about
that one's creepy.
photons.
Yeah, it's about like blasting at. There's like scientific proof that like everything can happen at once, and your observation is just one take of what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's a freeze frame. But yeah, I don't. That's a
Doubt it though.
that's a deep. That's a deep wormhole that we don't want to get into right now. But back to truth. I guess. Do you guys have any input on that so far? What's your idea on truth so far?
I guess for me, I think about like there is a common truth.
Mhm.
And, you know, when you talk about truth, my mind immediately goes to like a jury deciding truth. Because there's your truth and there is the perceived truth of whatever community that you involve yourself. And who is to say it's arrogant to think that the common truth for some reason supersedes a personal truth. What is the determination of that? You know, and I guess it's the people get to decide that, but a lot of times I feel like that's not fair. Like I immediately think of Shawshank Redemption when he's on trial and he knows he didn't kill his wife at the beginning of the movie, but all the evidence points to the fact that he did. Both truths are real. Both truths are real for the people that are involved. And I think it's an interesting thing to think about whose truth should supersede the next truth and why have we determined it that way? Again, it all goes back to perspective and whatever situation, whatever process that the community describes as this is what we've decided as a community.
I think,
and it's interesting.
I think what you're saying there is that truth's ultimate crossroads is when two people's truths directly conflict, you know?
Yeah.
Like I can't, for society's sake, I can't think of someone with a split personality. That's one person with two completely different sets of perspectives and truths. That person, you could have one side of your split personality kill someone and the other is a perfectly good citizen, you know?
That's crazy. James McAvoy, movie Split. Incredible.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that movie too, Split.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's two versions of it.
Whose truth is real? They're all real.
Right. And so like your truth can be fine, whatever it is. Your truth can be fine, whatever it is, until it intersects with society, and that's when your truths are challenged. So like you can believe whatever the hell you want. You can be, if you sit at home, you got your food delivery, you never interact with anyone, you can tell me that Ralph Nader is the 567th Nobel Peace Prize winner. Lou Ferrigno is a porn star, and Johnny Depp is our next president. But that doesn't matter. That only matters when all of a sudden you get into a society where you have to share those ideas. You can say that murder's okay. You can say that stealing's okay. But as soon as you start stealing from someone else, that truth gets challenged, you know? So I don't know. I think that's the ultimate crossroads for truth, is that your reality is very subjective, and you I just feel like the only way to handle truth and law and stuff like that is to pick out what most people agree upon. Even though, I mean, like everyone always says that compromise means that both sides lose. You know,
I don't get this.
Okay,
Yeah.
Saying that truth is based on the individual and what they think.
that's one theory.
That's a theory of it.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Because I have like an understanding that truth is outside of the individual, like it's objective, it's physical happenings. Like say, for example, if you go into history and you know how rulers would take over a country and they would just like burn all the literature they had and like frame themselves as the good guy that brought peace and prosperity to the land and actually they killed a bunch of people and were terrible people, but they would have it written down in history that they're good people. Are you saying that that could be their own truth? Because to me, that's like an objective truth that they did all that stuff, and just because future people won't know the actual objective truth about it means that like there's two different paths now.
That's a complicated one because there is two tiers of that one. So like say tribe A comes over to tribe B, burns all their scriptures, their memories, take over that land, raise the next generation to think that tribe A has always been there and the takeover is peaceful and the people wanted it. The generation that rewrote that stuff knows that that's not the truth, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They know that that's not real. They know that they're rewriting it. But generation 2, who's being taught that and doesn't know any better,
it becomes their truth. That
is just a truth to them. Like imagine something I'm thinking of right now is when your mom told us that the masks go actually with the blue side out.
Yeah.
There was a good week where I knew that the blue side went out or whatever it was. It was the white side went out. I forget what the right way is now, but say the
blue out.
Blue out is the right way.
Yeah. So we thought we put the white out for a week or two. And I was like, I was like, everyone's doing this wrong. I know it. Like Eli's mom told me. And I was like, I know this is a truth. And then all of a sudden it got flipped. And then I was like, oh, now this is my truth. And that could be flipped too. And honestly, it probably doesn't matter which way your mask is flipped because it's a double-sided thing. But the point is
just like the truth.
The truth is two-sided. Just like Bane's blade.
Just like Bane's.
So
there's like to me, there is a truth and then there's fake truth, which are just believing lies.
There's Eli, I think what you're trying to describe here is perceptive truth and objective truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is how I have no idea if that's factual and how scholars describe it, but that's how I think of it. Is like there is everybody's objective truth or everybody's perspective truth as to what they've learned is real and is the truth. And then there's a third person omniscient version of the truth that knows what happened or did not happen.
And just because lots of people have a shared perspective truth doesn't mean it is the truth, but it becomes a truth.
So then describe language to me, because language is a collective set of ways to say certain things.
I love that question. Like, describe language in terms of truth to me. Like, oh my God, how do I go about that?
Yeah, that is a weird way to put that.
Sayonara.
But describe language to me, because language, if you and I made up our own language, there's nothing theoretically wrong with that. There's no right or wrong way to describe something. We should also make up our own language for Podcast Bozo or there is no truth to language. So like there's people who say there's a right way to speak, there's a better way to speak. I know that's probably universally pretty much the wrong way to think about things, but your truth, Cheek, your way to say what even just in America in the way of speaking English, you say pop, one person says soda, one person says Jimmy's, you say sprinkles, you say highway, I say fairway or freeway, and I don't know, those kinds of things. There's linguistic difference, and it's a nitpicky way to look at truth, and it doesn't matter that much, but that's kind of the point of philosophy, is to debate these things that don't matter that much, and they always extrapolate to a bigger meaning. So I don't know.
I would ask, why does language have to have a truth in it? I don't think it does.
Well, it has to have. It has to have a truth because the point of language is to communicate to someone else.
It seems more organizational.
Language has to have an agreed upon standard of communicating ideas, but that's just a way of communicating ideas. The idea of truth is something that in perspective either happened or didn't happen. How we communicate that is irrelevant. It's that we agree the way that something either did or didn't happen is communicated.
So
It's whether or not we agree upon the way that we transition our ideas or describe our ideas.
Yeah, agreed.
And I understand what you mean that that language has a certain perspective within the way that we're talking about truth, but I think that in its quintessence, we're talking about truth as a description of something that we believe or we do not believe. It is not the idea of how we communicate our beliefs, which is what I perceive language as.
yeah.
Language is how we communicate beliefs. It is not the belief itself. And we are debating truth itself.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. So yeah, so you're more of a scientific, objective, third party viewer of the truth. That's kind of where your perspective of the truth is it's this omniscient person who can look down and say he's the ruler on what is real, what's actually happening.
I understand the different points of view of truth.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that language is a way in which we communicate those beliefs of truth. It isn't necessarily truth.
But yeah, no, I'll leave that alone because I agree with you on that one. So there's an
We're getting twisted.
I feel like I was trying to like.
No, you lost me towards the end. Like my brain is just like short circuiting at this point. But
it's a twisty.
I agree with what you started with language is just a means for conveying the truth. It doesn't have anything tied directly. Like if we're talking about back the quantum stuff of like how light can go through, what is it like a hole?
It's a slit, basically.
A slit, yeah.
Atoms through a slit.
Atoms go through two slits at once. Like that could be a truth that you observe, but it doesn't matter what language you speak in. And like as long as you can communicate it to other people that this is what happened, I don't really see how truth is involved in that.
But what if you can't communicate that because they speak another language?
I don't think that's an issue of truth. I think that's an issue of like organization and communication.
Okay. Fair enough, you two. I got you.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I get that.
I understand how the truth can get twisted within a disjointed, within a broken communication system, and that communication can lead to different truths. But theoretically, if you're French and I'm speaking English and our translations, they are perfect and you can understand completely what I am saying, then the truth is still something separate from that.
So, and I would argue
it's not getting lost.
I would argue the way you guys think about it is the right way. There are some people who say that truth is momentary and it's based on your reality. And so nothing that's actually happening matters. So say I have a mat here. This is an example that I read about. There's a mat behind me and there's a cat on it right now. And I turn around and I tell you there's a cat on this mat behind me. And that
There's a cat on this mat with a hat behind me.
Yeah, and it has a hat.
Can we go with the rhymes?
Is that Dr. Seuss?
It's Dr. Papusa. But by the way, which one of these do you want? Mango or
berry
blackberry lime? Right. But so there's gonna be a moment. Pretend he's not here to monitor this. There's going to be a moment where I tell you that and you take it as fact. Why would I lie about that? That is a true thing.
You love fucking with me though.
I do. All right. Factor that.
Plenty of reason to lie.
But given that you don't love fucking with me and you tell me that there's a cat with a hat on a mat over there, I believe that to be the truth.
You just believe it. And I believe it to be the truth because that's what I saw. But that cat actually ran off the mat when I turned to say that to you. And you don't know that that changed. And I don't know that that changed. For both of us, that's still the truth. And what's the bother of that being the truth? But when I turn around, the cat's not there. So how do we determine how long my truth existed until it didn't?
What the fuck? Go back.
No, I understand where you are. I understand where you're coming from.
Sheesh.
This actually really, really correlates with that determinism, the quantum, whatever shit that we
Quantum
need to talk
shit.
about next time. But yeah. I mean, to some extent, it's like, what does it matter? But dive into me as if it matters, because there are some aspects in which it would matter.
Do you mind? I don't want to keep saying go back, but
No, I don't mind. I think if
the
anyone
cat
needs,
ran away before and you two didn't see it, the question is, how long would your truth lasted for?
yeah, wait, am I still right? Even though it ran away, and who knows what time it ran away? So who knows how long, regardless of which side of that argument you're on, that truth lasted. So I'm looking at Cheek. Cat's behind me. I can't see it. Cheek can't see it. But last time I checked, right before I turned to Cheek to tell him that the cat's
Right,
there,
it was there.
I said there's a cat
Well,
and a mat.
Our perceptive truth is that the truth is that the cat was there until you saw that it wasn't there.
Right.
The omniscient truth is that it fucking left at some point and we didn't realize that. But in this case, that objective truth is irrelevant because we don't have that omniscient point of view.
Yeah.
So we can only use the information that we have as best as it's given.
Mm-hmm.
So that truth is only relevant and applicable as long as we have the most current information.
Right. And the issue, and I agree, the omniscient truth is the truth, but the issue is that we don't always
Have the omniscient truth.
yeah.
This reminds me of the if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to see it, did it fall?
Mm-hmm.
Is this in the same line?
That is really,
no.
that's the first example
No.
you use in determinism in quantum entanglement, because in quantum entanglement, it says that there's a version where the tree did fall, make a noise. There's a version where the tree didn't fall, didn't make a noise. There's a tree. There's a version where the tree was always fallen. It never grew because the first rendered image of it is when you saw it fallen, which is why I love that discussion so much. But,
Man.
but,
The tree didn't make a noise until somebody heard it make a noise. I'm of that party boat.
well, the thing is, if it didn't make a noise and you didn't see it fall, then that means
it made waves, but those waves are not noise until something interprets it as a noise.
right. But the issue is, if it didn't make a noise, you didn't see it fall, then how can you say that it wasn't always there? And you literally can't prove that because there is no omniscient guy. So going back to that omniscient truth is that there is no omniscience, so there's no way to prove it. So you could warp your perspective into saying that there are these things that we can't explain. Another one, what's the E?
Is there nothing in the middle there? Is there nothing like
Tell me about what you think would be in the middle.
like we understand that there are trees in a forest.
Mm-hmm.
We understand that they start as a seed and that they grow, and that certain forces of nature may cause those trees to fall. So whether there is or is not a perceptive truth or an omniscient truth of somebody actually seeing that tree fall, we can make scientific method an educated assumption that that tree grew and maybe a bolt of lightning hit that fucking tree and it fell.
Sure.
Like that's the middle ground I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Like, no, there isn't that omniscient person there. And no, I wasn't there to perceive it. But I think as a community, you and I and Eli can all agree that that tree grew and that there was a fucking thunderstorm where either a massive gust of wind or a bolt of lightning or something caused that tree to fall. And that tree didn't magically appear falling on the ground.
Sure. Yeah. And I agree with you. The allure of this other truth to me is just that it's kind of eerie, you know? And because no one would believe that, I mean, there are some people that are theorizing this, but the reason that it's starting to be believed is that this slit experiment happened. And what happened is that they shot things through a slit. There's a certain way they appeared, and then there was a certain way they appeared on the wall. So it's like, say you took spray paint, sprayed it through a slit, and just like a quick blast, and there was a certain way it appeared, you know? And if you did it again, it would be a little different. If you did it again, it'd be a little different. On different papers, you know, it'd be a little different every time you tried it. The issue is that this was an unobserved experiment. They just saw the end point, which was the point of observation because that's where it splattered. What changed was when they put an observation chip in the middle, and then all of a sudden the pattern changed on the end point. So what they're saying is that the point at which you observe it changes the outcome of what happens. And as I'm saying that, I know that's hard to grasp.
I'm getting so excited thinking about doing this topic for next season. I'm getting, ooh. It opens up such a different world of possibilities, because when I'm first thinking like a tree falls and no one hears it, like I think simulation, you know, like if someone creates a video game, you can either make a world where everything is rendered and happening at once, or you can make it where you walk into this area of the city and everything in front of you is happening, but everything outside of that view isn't happening. Whereas as soon as you get into, it's based off of perception and what's happening in front of that individual, then you're getting into this whole like multiverse theory where it's not even simulation, but it's like different universes all happening instantaneously.
It's all about at the point of when you observed it, that influences what happens next. So looking at a car going to the end of a road, it could turn left or to right. At the point you see it turn left. You, in this theory, you actually influenced it turning left by observing it, because you not observing it would have meant that it did the other possibility. And that was proven by this experiment where it says that like that observing it actually changes the outcome of what happens in the end. And that's as far as I want to go into that here, because we
should lay off it. We should back off this monster.
This topic deserves its own episode on its own.
Listen, in my perspective, truth, the Cardinals didn't fucking win today. That's all I know. The Bills are 8-2 going into bye week, and the Arizona Cardinals can go fuck themselves. They're 5-4 or whatever.
Ours too, Cheek. But I'm gonna move this. I think one thing that we're getting hung up on is that there's an omniscient truth, but that's a benefit of the doubt scenario, because there is no omniscient that we can refer to. The best we can do is like CCTV, you know, and something observing. So in this cat in the mat scenario behind me, if there's a camera up there, we'd actually be able to refer to the tapes and see. It's kind of like pre video review NFL and regular NFL, you know, where we now have the video review, where you can say before you just had to trust the ref's judgment and that was the call. But now we have video reviews where you can go back and see that
what actually happened.
And even then we're not exactly right, but
it's not like people are seeing different. I shouldn't get into it.
What hit me?
Like it's not like some people are seeing different things happening. Like everyone is seeing the same one thing happen.
Well, that's not true, because
hopefully
on a call that is so close in the NFL, people rooting for one team will see one thing and truly believe that it's that one thing for their team. If it's something like
that's cognitive ease. Is that not?
Yeah.
I think
you're believing something that agrees with your confirmation bias.
Right.
Yeah.
I think given your example right now, are you guys familiar with the Bush push?
No. What's that?
I forget what year it was. Some championship game between Notre Dame and USC when Reggie Bush was a running back there. There's a rule that a player cannot push the running back into the end zone for it to score as a touchdown. And USC was playing Notre Dame. USC had the ball. Reggie Bush was running the ball. And a lot of players determined after the game, or claimed to have determined, that, you know, one of the USC teammates had pushed Reggie Bush into the end zone, and that was not legal. And it's a huge controversy. And, you know, Notre Dame lost the game because of that. But it's this whole perceptive truth thing. Notre Dame players and fans to this day will claim that they saw this push that should not have happened.
Mm-hmm.
USC fans will claim to this day that there were just hands on a back. There was no force there. Like, it's all perceptive fucking truth, man. And it doesn't fucking matter. Nothing matters, man.
I know we make this joke every time, but we should rename this episode the Bush Push. It's
Bush
all
Push.
about your perspective on the truth. But all right, so I want to move something.
I think that's what it's called. I saw the 30 for 30 a few weeks ago.
All right. Well, it's exactly that. It's about, there's so much that plays into it. And I think we kind of covered the basis of truth, and that's not even the beef and potatoes of the topic that I want to cover right now. What I want to talk about now is
The crème fraiche.
the crème de fraiche, the amuse-bouche, which is, well, actually, we're not there yet. But I want to take a step up to cheating, as in on a partner, or cheating. Yeah, cheating on a partner. We'll leave it at that. Cheating on a partner. There are people who cheat on their partners, and there's a chance that no one would ever find out. No, it would never get spilled to their partner, and this overwhelming guilt compels them to tell their partner. And obviously, I think on a common basis, that's an ideal scenario, right? Like you would love if your partner cheated on you to tell you, right?
I don't know if you'd love
Yeah,
it, but you'd
correct.
want it. Yeah.
Right.
You'd want to know.
Oh, cheat on me and tell me, please. But there are people out there. I was talking about this topic a little bit with Courtney and how I wanted to develop in cheating. And she was like, there are people out there who believe that you shouldn't tell your partner if you cheated, because it's actually for the better of your partner's psychology. And slippery slope here. Obviously, that could be an excuse to not tell your partner. But there is a theory that says, like, if you cheat on your partner, you break up with your partner and you never tell them. But you break up with them because if you're cheating on
It's
them,
like you're saving them the pain and the hardship of going through the difficult feelings that come from being cheated on.
yeah, the trust-oriented scars that you can leave on a partner after cheating on them are so big that it's almost worth, like, you cheat on someone, you should probably break up. Like that's an indication of the end of that relationship. In most cases, I'm generalizing, but the issue is that you shouldn't, there's an argument saying that you shouldn't tell them because the truth of you cheating on them would hurt them so much and hurt their trust that future relationships will not be possible for them.
I think that's fucking stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
So what if you're in a relationship and you suspect the cheating,
Mhm.
but there's no evidence, and then they break up with you and they don't say it's because you cheated, and now you have this just super aggressive, what's the word I'm thinking of here? Come on.
Trust issue?
Yeah, trust issue where you're
Paranoia?
You're paranoid.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Where you're just fucking paranoid, and your paranoia ends up ruining your future relationship. Couldn't you argue the opposite, that if they had told you, you could have accepted that and then moved on to another relationship?
Are you saying your significant other breaks up with you but doesn't admit to cheating, but you suspect them of cheating, and then you are their suspect of all future people cheating? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
I think
Correct.
that's different in that you just gotta climb over your fears.
you're
Like you gotta,
But your suspicions were right.
but
you
they
don't
were
know that.
right. But you don't know that. Is that
So
But objective.
that would perpetuate regardless if someone cheated on you or not.
like if you don't have any evidence, you don't know that they cheated, then
How do you
gotta
pr-
just move on and be like, I shouldn't dwell on this.
How do you prove you're loyal?
That's a perfect world. I'm saying I think that it goes both ways.
No, I get it.
I think that
We're just challenging your idea. Like, how do you
yeah, no.
how do you then prove you're loyal then on the other side of that situation?
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
I mean,
but
I don't think
I'm
it's,
just saying that I think that.
Go ahead, Cheek.
I'm just saying that I think that the opposite of what you originally said, JJ, is also a valid argument. You know, if you don't tell me, but I suspect it, and you were, but I don't know, then in the future, I'm probably going to be very suspicious of certain behaviors.
I would say that becomes a problem that was inflicted by yourself from the beginning then.
But is that inflicted by yourself or your previous partner?
So, well, tell me, is this paranoia that comes through regardless if I did cheat on you or not? Does this paranoia get worse or better if I tell you I cheated on you?
Oh. I think that your paranoia probably gets worse.
Yeah. So I think that's
because you see certain signs from your previous relationship that you'll associate with your future relationship. And then you think, oh, fuck, that person also might be cheating.
So this is the first practical explanation of why different truths is important in this matter, because let's choose a specific scenario, not a theoretical scenario. I mean, I'm going to make it up, but let's dial in on a specific situation. I cheat on Chad. In this, I cheat on Chad. Chad and I were dating
again.
Yeah, I know. I can't help myself. Chad's not everything for me, but I cheat on Chad, and to me, I regret it. I feel guilty. And
that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Are you saying Jay's feelings don't matter, Cheek?
Cheek.
Correct.
I'm a snowflake, and you're crushing me with your heat. You're melting me with your heat. But I'm Chad. I cheated on Chad. Sorry. I cheated on Chad.
I cheated on myself.
Wait, are you Chad? Who's Chad in this situation?
I cheated on Chad. I'm JJ.
Cheers, Anonymous.
I'm JJ and I cheated on Chad. I cheat on Chad and I say, Chad, I'm so sorry.
That's a tongue twister.
I don't know why I
Chad,
chose.
and I say, Chad, I cheated on you.
I don't know why I chose Chad for this cheating.
Chad, I cheated on you. 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 Chad, I cheated on you.
I'm dating Chad. I cheated on him. I take that as an example of why Chad and I don't belong with each other anymore. I say, and so I have this moral discussion. Should I tell Chad that I cheated on him and then break up? Or should I break up with him? And never tell him. What's better for Chad in this situation? If I have decided to break up with him, I'm not going to cheat and then hide it under the rug for the rest of our relationship. I have decided that I'm done with Chad. That was a sign that I'm done with Chad. Should I ever tell Chad?
You should tell Chad and you should tell him why you cheated.
Why? What would that do for Chad?
He can learn from his experiences and maybe in what he did wrong to have a more successful future relationship with somebody else.
Do you think that making personal attacks on someone is going to change their personal behavior though? Like that's
yes.
You think so?
I mean, I think attack is a strong word. I think criticism might be a more gentle word. I think you can say, hey, Chad, I cheated on you because you were always at work and I didn't feel like you were paying enough attention to me. So I saw attention through Eli because Eli would always write poems for me and pay attention for me.
And I had
so that's why I broke up with you. Good luck in your future relationship.
Fuck you, Chad.
Maybe, hopefully Chad has some critical thinking ability and decides, you know what, in my next future relationships, I'm going to pay a little bit less attention to work and I'm going to pay more attention to Sean because he is more important to me than work.
But Chad's values in that scenario. Chad, I'm going to defend Chad here because I did love Chad at one point. Chad's values at one point were that you got in this relationship with Chad. Chad is who Chad is. Chad loves his work. Chad is involved.
He's such a workaholic.
He's a workaholic, but he loves it, and one of his passions is advancing in his career. How can you tell Chad that he's wrong, and he's the reason that you cheated on him? Because aren't you the one that really did something wrong in the first place? So like, how can you sit there after cheating and tell Chad, hey, this is your fault? Like, shouldn't the right move would be I'm breaking up with you before cheating and saying, Chad, I'm breaking up with you because this and this and this. And even then I would argue that maybe that's just Chad who is, and maybe you two are just two separate people. And it's not fair to say, Chad, you need to fix yourself because that conforms to my ideas. But in the case of cheating, you're the one who cheated. You can't go to Chad and be like, Chad, you messed up, and so I fucked you because
Chad,
of it.
it's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
I don't love somebody who pays way too much attention to work and doesn't pay attention to me. I think that going forward in your future relationships, you should find somebody like Ian who doesn't care about a partner, who has more, who spends more time on work than spends more time on their
It
partner.
has one knee.
And has one.
I think there's a lot of ways to spin it. Like, you know,
I know. I'm talking. I want to talk to you about this though. This is what we're talking about. E, do you have any input before we?
I think you got to tell them that you cheated. And then you got to tell them why that you cheated. Because Chad's truth is being completely fucked if you don't tell him the entire omniscient truth. And that's your choice. And then that alters Chad's truth. And that's fine. I mean, that is what it is. It's not fine. It is what it is. But you need to understand that, JJ, you breaking up with Chad and whether you tell him or do not tell him that you cheated will alter his truth.
So you're saying that in this case, Chad's qualities are the things that made me cheat on him and will make other people cheat on him as well. And you think in telling him what made you cheat on him, this will help prevent other cheatings.
Correct.
Yeah.
What do you think, E?
E?
I'm a bit
His brain is
confused. I don't
fried.
know what specific avenue of thought we're going down right now. Because right now I have like 6 different alleyways of
Sure.
thinking. I feel like we just opened up a lot of doors to this subject, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm thinking down all of them.
It's multiverse.
Let's. Can you pose me a specific question?
So the purpose of the discussion is the weight of the truth. And in this case, we're talking about coming out as a cheater.
Right.
And
I
who is
And we're talking about everybody's truths may change based upon the person who's in power right now, which is JJ, describing his truth.
Mhm.
Would you consider that accurate?
Yeah. And in this case, is the weight of the truth beneficial for you to change someone else's truth? Or is it beneficial to hold on to that truth? And where is that guilt coming from?
Okay, yeah. First off, I think that it's always beneficial to know the truth, like the objective truth, not what someone tells you is and like trying to save you from something, because it gets very subtle. And relates to the things that I studied, which is when you hook up yourself to a lie detector test and you answer a question, say you cheat on Chad, who's a workaholic, dedicated to his craft. You shouldn't have cheated on Chad, but you hook yourself up to a lie detector and they ask you, do you cheat on Chad? Your body starts fritzing out as soon as you start to lie. You say, I didn't cheat on Chad. Your heart is pumping, your blood pressure is rising, the electricity in your body is being picked up by the lie detector test. Like, you cannot help but feel your body like go insane. Like, that's what happens. That's
It's a physiological response.
It's a
to
physiological response. No matter how deeply set you are into this lie, your body's going to give these results. And that right there is the key to everything else, is that your body does not like to lie. Like, that is at the center of everything. And so your behavior based off of a lie is going to be influenced by that. So someone telling the truth and living a happy relationship is going to be different from someone who has cheated, and maybe it was just one time, but everything after that, knowing that lie and convincing someone else that that didn't happen, is going to be different for the rest of their lives. Like, their body is going to behave differently, knowing that's based on a lie. And then out of that, you just got like two completely different offshoots. And so someone saying, hey, I cheated on you, yada, 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 they're going to understand things. Whereas if someone breaks up with you and they cheat on you and they don't know that, they're not going to be able to put together that their behavior was because of cheating. And so say they go on to someone else who cheated, someone else who also cheats on them, they're going to see that as normal behavior because they haven't known anything different, I suppose.
Right, because there are statistics that say sex goes down when someone cheats on you. There's statistics that say that personal time goes down. So like you'd be associating those things with just a normal relationship when really you should be associating them with cheating.
Right.
I get that. So tell me where this breaks down. If so, I cheat on Chad. So sorry, Chad. I take the lie detector test. It tells me that I cheated on Chad. But if I break up with Chad after cheating on him, Chad goes on to be in a happy relationship. Chad goes and takes the lie detector test, and they ask, "Have you ever been cheated on, Chad?" And he says no. That lie detector test says no, you've never been cheated on. They agree with him. So Chad,
well, that's what we've
that.
talked about as far as personal truth. That's all that he knows.
Yeah, right. And so Chad has lived happily, never having been cheated on. With that objective truth being the lie detector, that omniscient source of truth is that lie detector in this case. And for him,
we don't know that he lived happily.
Well,
whether or not he lived happily is irrelevant here. We're talking about the truth. He takes a lie detector test because for whatever reason, but he says that he has not been cheated on because you told him that you didn't cheat on him, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
And
I lied to Chad.
That's his truth. Yeah. It doesn't matter whether or not he's happy or not, or whatever his other relationships are like. It's going to come back as negative because he doesn't believe he's been cheated on.
Right. But that's true.
It's all perceptive truth.
That is.
But that doesn't necessarily benefit him in his future relationships.
Well, I think it could. I think the omission could, but I won't further this argument in that way because I would rather someone admit it to me, even though I know it would cause me more pain. Go ahead, Jake.
I would argue that knowing or not knowing that has less to do with the truth and more to do with like personal growth as far as how you handle criticism and past experiences
and conflict.
It's not that in conflict. Exactly. It's not that the truth had any relevance to your growth. It's how you handled your personal truth. So whether or not your personal truth is lined up with that objective truth, it's how you grow from the situation at which you are given.
So when you admit that you cheated on someone, what plays into that? What causes you to say that finally? Because it's probably not right away. You don't cheat on someone and go home right away and tell them, right? Like, you have to think about it.
You could. I don't know. I've never cheated. I'm not an asshole. I think it could be any number of things. I think it could come from a place of hatred. Like, you know what? I'm so fucking fed up with this relationship. I fucking hate you. Just so you know, I went to the club last night and I fucked DeAndre. Just so you know. I think it could come from a place of guilt. Absolutely. Like, you know, I finally realized that I do love you, and having that experience with somebody else is what made me realize that I do love you. So I need to tell you that. I think that there are a number of motivators that could come into play in letting somebody or enforcing or like providing the motivation for somebody to tell that truth to their partner. I don't think it's one thing. I think that it comes from a number of different perspectives and situations.
Right. Ultimately, all right, let's hear E. Do you agree with that?
I don't think it's not just guilt. Guilt is not the only reason somebody would tell the truth.
Sure. But the moral of this story is that you think ultimately truth should find its way home, and it probably will in some matter.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes.
E, before I move on?
I don't think I have any final thoughts.
Do you think what you looked into would play into this quite yet, E? I'm about to move on to murder, so we could wait a second.
Let's go into murder.
Okay. Fix your bosoms.
Apologize to Chad.
Sorry. Can we pour one out to Chad?
Toast to Chad.
Fucking Chad, you don't deserve it, Chad. You just love your work. Maybe relationships aren't for you, but keep on hanging, Chad. Did you like that one?
Yeah.
Nice. So murder. This is the ultimate one that made me curious. As we talked about before, at the beginning, the thing that inspired me for this topic is that truth has a weight to it. And these premeditated criminals who wanted to murder someone feel this unpredicted, unsensible weight of guilt after committing a murder. And it comes to the point where they've planned this out. They committed the murder. It's over. It's done. You know, they could live on. All they have to do is not tell anyone. But something about the weight of this guilt, or sometimes their cockiness about the crime, their confidence and swagger that they won't be caught, that they think they're too smart for the law, these things somehow guide truth back to the center of that amplitude. And
much like Tom Cruise bringing out the truth of Jack Nicholson in that beloved movie that we all know and love.
This would be a good time if you wanted to play out that skit, if you wanted to look it up.
Listen, JJ, you can't handle the truth. Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's going to do it? You? You, Lieutenant Weinberg? I have a greater responsibility that you can't possibly fathom. You weep for Santiago, and you curse the Marines. You have the luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know. That Santiago's death, while tragic, probably saved lives. And my existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you, saves lives. You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. We use words like honor, code, loyalty. We use these words as the backbone of a life spent defending something that you use as a punchline. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom that I provide. And that questions the manner in which I provide them. I'd rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a weapon and stand a post. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
Wow.
Scene.
Oh, des fromages et le flambeau.
Des fromages, un petit poulet, bravissimo.
Le performance de l'appétit. Very fantastic.
Very fantastic, might I say.
Cheek, thanks for that.
I think I did okay there.
Yeah, for sight reading, I liked it. I had a sense that you had that pulled up. I'm glad that you did.
You really remind me of Jack Nicholson in that performance.
Did you make that up?
That was all ad-libbed from memory, just thinking about movies that I'd seen,
That's pretty good. We'll black out your screen for that one so we can't see that you're reading it off yours. But that brings us to murder and the guilt that's associated with murder and why people come out after a murder as saying that they did it. And in this case, sometimes it takes an interrogation, a statement of the facts, and explanation of the people that you affected. And some people don't think through that before they're even premeditated crimes. Sometimes it's someone committed it and gets bored and they're serial killers and they're geniuses with huge IQs and they want people to kind of heat up on them. So they give them clues and they give them too many clues. Sometimes they're proud of what they did and you hear them bragging in a diner to their friends and you report that to the police. Regardless, the point is that the truth has a way of finding home. Obviously, there are unsolved mysteries. There are things that aren't out there that aren't solved, but it seems like there's this tendency of the truth having this weight on people that no matter what it is, it's almost like this self-interested acting force that pushes its way through to when and where it matters. I don't know. Early perspectives, boys.
Maybe it's one of those non-explainable forces of nature.
Ooh.
You know, like the karma thing, like what goes around comes around.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe you commit a murder for whatever reason, and you have no intention of telling anyone. Like for example, I'll use the movie American Psycho. The character Patrick Bateman, played so beautifully by Christian Bale. He commits a number of murders and has no regard for them until the very end, when it's all built up and built up and built up and built up. And then he just loses it and goes off in a psychotic rant to who he perceives as his lawyer, telling his lawyer everything that he had done. You know, maybe it's one of those, the truth has its way of coming into our lives and exposing itself because of some unknown nature of karma. And this is what should be known. And that's why it becomes known.
Well, based on what we've discussed today, like there could be a story spun that helps portray that, you know, like E was talking about the fact that your body reacts to the truth and questions about the truth. And you can tell when there is a truth. What we've been talking about, how there's this path that truth takes, regardless of how it affects an individual. And like even the most sociopathic people, like in American Psycho, that's not a real story, but there are real circumstances like that have happened, you know, where this person is somehow compelled. Maybe it takes a specific example if they're a serial killer where they finally realize it. Maybe it takes one bad murder to realize how brutal it is. I don't know. Maybe if we're just talking robberies, all of a sudden you meet a store clerk who's been robbed before and you realize how that affected them. And a lot of this is idealist thinking, but like there's definitely like a bodily attribute to the truth. Like people who kill someone throw up based on the guilt and the disgustingness of what they did. I wonder if that's societal or if that's just part of us as people. But Cheek, I see you have something to say.
Yeah, I've got a question in that. I think that, you know, something I've thought about while you're talking about that is, you know, for how many murders that are crimes that have been committed that people eventually admit to and tell the truth. How many crimes and murders have gone unexamined or examined, but the people don't feel the need to tell the truth. So I wonder where in this conversation does your own personal justification lie? Where, you know, if you feel justified in the crime that you've committed, do you not feel the need to tell the truth about what actually happened because the ends do justify the means in some cases?
What's justification in this case? Do you think there's people who don't feel like they're justified of killing? Other than like an accident, I guess, but more like...
Will you repeat what you said, Cheek?
So I'm talking about justification. You know, we've talked about how many times have, you know, these crimes have been committed where people feel so much guilt or whatever the motivation may be that they spill the truth. How many times do these crimes also happen where people feel that they don't need to share the truth? Like, what are those rates compared to each other? And I wonder where justification, the idea of what I did was just or was it not just, where does that fall in this conversation? For an example, my Chad, you know, I ended up marrying Chad. Chad ended up being a fucking psychopath and we had kids together and he would beat our kids day in and day out for no good reason. Just, we couldn't understand why. And, you know, in order to protect my kids, I fucking whacked Chad. And, you know, all the evidence points to me. The cops are interrogating me, but I am not going to tell the truth because what I feel I did was justified in protecting my kids. So I wonder where justification lies in the sense of when does the truth get told and how does the truth get told? You know what I mean?
The interesting part about that scenario is that you're saying the truth is agreed upon by everyone, but you're leaving the truth, the facts of the truth from the police in that case because you think it's justified. The police might think you did it. They might not be able to pin it on you. You know you did it, but you don't want it to pin on yourself. And you won't do that because you know Chad deserved it at the bottom of your heart.
But you were talking about the weight of the truth and how that somehow brings up the truth.
Mm-hmm.
The weight of the truth in this scenario doesn't pay any means to my not telling the truth.
At that point, you're getting tied into our society and basically how things run. Huge portion of the population of women's prisons are people who have killed their partner because of domestic violence. Like that is a huge portion of women in jail. But that's different from other murders, and like they are totally justified. Like they were being abused. They had no other option. They killed that. Oh, I don't want to say they know that, but like, yeah, they killed that person and it was just to them. Like it made sense. Whereas that compared to a killer who gets off from it, maybe was abused. Like that's just what they do. They're going to hide it because they know it was wrong versus someone who knows at their heart what they did was right, but the society in which they live in is going to deem it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's like an inner truth, and then there's a placed upon truth, I guess. Unless there's a
But I would argue that we're talking about in this scenario the omniscient truth and how the omniscient truth holds a weight. And that justification also intervenes with that and might decrease that weight or affect that weight. Like JJ was saying, the truth always has a way of coming to knowledge. And I'm just
Right.
trying to bring up the perspective of
yeah. I follow.
there are other things in play.
I think that
and there are other situations to take note of that affect that weight.
I think there's a factor of. All right, let me think of how to phrase this. I think there's a factor of your own justification. So for someone who, say, their significant other is abusive, they get in a car crash, they're pinned down, and you just walk away from it, you let them die. That truth of letting that person die is easier to deal with because it's justified to you. Whereas someone who a serial killer who murders someone, that is tougher. That truth is tougher to hold to yourself for different reasons. So, like serial killers.
Is that not also murder?
Huh?
Letting somebody die in a car crash when you have full ability to save them?
I don't know if that's murder, but
is that not also murder?
Maybe that was a bad example.
There's a similar example I think that's available.
I'm just challenging you. I understand your argument
right. Well,
here,
like
and I'm just trying to challenge
taking
it.
advantage of the situation. There's a lead pipe, and you just finish them off there, and it looks like a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
So like no one gets involved. Police don't get involved. You can walk away from the whole scenario and be like, no one's going to look any more into this. I can live happily. Like that person is probably not going to tell anyone, I feel so guilty, I killed him, and then like turn themselves in. Like they're probably not going to do that. They're going to live their
You don't think
lives.
so?
That's what I'm saying.
I think they
That's
wouldn't.
what I'm saying.
I don't think they would.
That's
Spur
what I'm
of the
saying.
moment
The weight
person.
of the truth, can be varied.
Right. Exactly.
And that there are alternative factors that have to do with the weight of the truth.
Right. Whereas I think a serial killer, in my mind, this might just be the image I have of a serial killer, but a serial killer would like killing someone would be a major life defining event for them. Like it's something that they go out of their way to do, something
Like the first
that
time?
they enjoy.
Or every time?
I don't know. But I could see a serial killer being wanting to talk to someone, like wanting to share this, like, because killing something is a big deal in the society we live in. It's like a huge thing,
Right.
and like they know not to talk to people about it, but maybe
it's a passion.
they aren't getting caught. You know, years have gone by. They know they've killed someone. They're feeling this like emotion in them where they're like, I haven't got my fill. Like, I've got this energy. I know I did this. I'm the only person who knows about this. I want to share this or something. And they feel this like, because humans are sociable, they want to share and connect with other people inherently. And when you have your life defining thing being a serial killer, you can't share that with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is a big factor where it doesn't connect murders, but it's like a social, where do you fit in with society?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does make sense. It's because it's like, well, if you're really into IPAs, you're going to want to share that with someone, even if it was illegal and you enjoyed IPAs.
You're really into jam bands.
If you're really into jam bands and you listen to them all day, 24/7, it's all you think about, even if it's illegal, even or say like your parents don't let you talk about them, you're still going to buy that Metallica poster and put it on your wall. You know, you're still going to get those little tokens of interest. And you have to be passionate to be a serial killer, right? Like a calculated serial killer, you have to be passionate about that.
I don't know. I don't want to jut into what serial killers are, because I don't think I know really what serial killers are, but
I'm asking you to speculate.
The point of that was, I don't think it's a question of murder. I think it's a question of social interconnections.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to put, I'm trying to put different situations on, put truth, the light of the truth in different situations and see if our ideas change in them.
Yeah.
And so murder is just another example. Cheating's another example. Surprisingly, you guys said you should always tell someone if you cheat, but there are some times when you murder someone that you don't have to tell anyone, which I think is funny, but understandable based on how we describe that. Because when it comes down to murder, obviously situations are more dire than cheating.
If you murder someone who maybe deserved it or not, you aren't the one who judges that. It's society. So you could spend the rest of your life in jail. Whereas if you cheat on someone, there's no judge and jury in that. Everyone just moves on.
Yeah, think of the laws of self-defense. That is a societal definition of an okay version to kill someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that's a slippery slope. Like you said, there's a lot of DV victims who defended themselves that end up in female prisons because theirs was slightly outside the realm of what we as a public describe, or there wasn't enough evidence to describe it as a justifiable murder. Even if there are traces of them having bruises on their eyes and traces of actual abuse, it's sometimes hard to prove at that moment if it was necessary for them to kill them right then and there.
Right.
But that's where the truth becomes interesting, because it's impossible to put ourselves in anyone like that shoe, but anyone like that in their shoes, I guess. But if you try to put yourself there, imagine like the stress and the duress and the everyday panic and anxiety that's associated with that, and just like the not only the physical beatdown, because I'd imagine that's honestly probably one of the least concerning parts of that situation. And probably the most concerning part is just the trap feeling and the justification, and it's always on your mind, and you can't stop thinking about it. And like imagine that. And maybe you get beat every day. You get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, a husband or wife comes home and you're like, today's my day to kill this person. This is the day I get out. You might kill them that day after being so abused and so consumed and not getting sleep and being black and blue all over. You kill them that day, but that's not a justifiable murder anymore, because there was no imminent danger that day. He wasn't beating you that day.
It wasn't technically self-defense.
Yeah. And so, which is the truth? Objectively, if we're talking from the omniscient person, there was a murder. There was absolutely a murder, right? We know that. The police can see that. There's someone dead. There's someone that's alive. Another omniscient thing would be that this person was married. Another omniscient thing would be that there was evidence factored in that this person had been beating, maybe, if it had been reported. But what is the truth to that situation? Like, that person felt like they needed to kill that person that day and get ahead of the ball in that case and kill their spouse before the beatings happen again, because that's all they think about. It consumes them. Someone on the jury might say it didn't need to happen that day because he wasn't beating you that day, you know? So I don't know.
I've been thinking, and you were absolutely right. I was inconsistent in how I felt about somebody being cheated on and somebody being murdered. And I guess I'm starting to think about every scenario is different.
Yeah.
And the ends are different. The results are different, and there's more weight on certain situations, and
every bit of it is different.
It's a crazy thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still don't think I was wrong in anything that I said, but I was definitely inconsistent now that I think about it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like walking through these examples, because it challenges. You can't just, if I just asked you blankly, you would say blank answer. But every time you have a different situation, there's a different context to it, and you are inevitably going to answer differently. And I don't know. I think truth is very interesting, because truth and knowledge and all that shit is like, we treat truth very, I mean, if you want to take it to a current day language, like fake news, all that shit, like that's all part of that cognitive ease, where you like group a bunch of, there's something called the halo effect, which is technically just stereo my brain's falling apart. Stereotypes. Stereotyping. And it's basically just saying, like, I can group these things together. Like, all frat boys are blank, all girls are blank, all Jewish people are blank, all Republicans are blank, Democrats, the halo effect is an easy way to group things together and make everything defined as the same. So as a Republican, fake news is one of those things where you take a step back and you say, fake news, everything I hear is wrong. It allows you to not think critically about every single thing you hear, and rather say that everything you hear on this channel is fake. And I'll just listen to everything on this channel. It's just an easy way of dissecting everything. People on both sides do it. Fake news is obviously kind of like a Trumpian Republican side of things. But there are people out there who just listen to CNN. They just listen to CBS. They just read the New York Times.
Same thing, just the opposite aisle.
Yeah, you just, if you're looking at that and you're saying this, everything I hear here is true, the other side is bad, so I have to believe this side. It's like the people who voted for Biden and now are relaxed and like we solved everything, and you're allowed to have that period. But there are still things that I don't believe Biden is going to solve that I care about.
JJ, I think you make a great point here. And I think the biggest takeaway that we can have from this discussion today is that there's a lot of fake news out there. And that you should listen to Sean Hannity. My good friend, I'm good friends with Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson. And you should stop listening to the fake media, and that Fox News tells the truth, okay? Plain and simple.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
Grab a hold of that. Two-hand it if you need to. Ride it. Never think about it again. Rip it. Read it. Rainbow. Boom. I don't know, boys. That's I think that's enough of that, personally. Unless you guys have some other input. But I think
it's time for a break.
I mean,
sorry, I have to pee.
Do you have to pee?
I got pee.
All right, let's take some pee-pees. I think we're pretty close to wrapping up the episode anyways. We're at 2:10, but let's take a quick pee-pee and then we'll figure out we'll wrap it up.
See if we got more to talk about.
All right.
Hey, thanks for listening.
All right, welcome back. Not much left here. Sorry for keeping you waiting just to hear the polish off, but I want to thank everyone for listening to season 2 of Podcast Bozo. You guys have been amazing. It's been a fun time, and honestly, like we said, we don't need anyone to listen to us for us to have fun, but having people listen to us is honestly what makes it worth it overall and why we keep going. That being said, everyone look at Cheek.
Do you want to say anything to the fans before we go?
I just want to say,
This is the end of season 2. What do you want to tell our fans?
Chagaute.
Listen,
Cheek, hit us. Don't get emotional.
I've got a couple of things I want to say. To anyone that has listened to our rambling, amazing conversation and at times nonsense through these past 2 seasons, thank you. We love it. We appreciate it. We appreciate your commitment. You are why we do this, and the fact that we love to hear our own voices because, we're all pretty smart here. We do it for the Bills because we love these Buffalo Bills.
Go BBs.
That's one reason I do it. And, stick with us. We're only going to improve. We love you.
Yeah.
Chagaute.
Chagaute. In the words of the French kings, Chagaute. Yeah. We're
Jay, as our host, sign us off.
Should we sign off with just a bit of like quiet weeping and then say goodbye?
I don't think that's the move for the season finale. I don't know why.
I've already done enough quiet weeping after that Bills loss today.
All right. Well, maybe we should just sign off. I'm going to say 2 words. Cheek, you say 2 words. E, you say 2 words.
2 words.
And we're going to try to build a sentence in a circle until we just kind of collapse. So, I am
the one
who cheated
on Chad. It was you.
Set you up for that one, Jay. You cheater, you filthy scoundrel.
Hey, apologies to Chad. Cheek, you wanted us to apologize to Chad. I didn't mean it, Chad. It's me, not you. But thanks all for listening. We love you, and tell your loved ones that you cheated on them. Have a nice night.
I'll leave it there.
Hasta luego.